There is currently a 30% off sale, Golden Eagle premiums and modifications, and yes, that does include talismans, so if you want to go ahead and pick something up, use my code in the description and you can also get this decal. If you missed the sale, don't worry because you can always make up the difference with today's video sponsor, GE for War Thunder. GE for War Thunder is an app available on the Google Play Store in which you will complete tasks of varying difficulty to earn yourself Golden Eagles. The harder the task, the more GE you get, the easier the task, the less GE you get. I recommend doing some of the easier tasks, get a small amount of Golden Eagles, and just get yourself a quick little day of premium time for a little bit of grinding. Click the link in the description down below and use my code on screen for 10 extra Golden Eagles. Here's my hot take. I don't really mind the newest battle rating changes to most of the 9.0 and 8.7 aircraft. Now before everyone starts screaming at me, I don't think they're good battle rating changes at all. I'd never think any of the battle rating changes that Gaijin makes are, in the most part, a good change. It's usually like 80 to 90% bad changes and then like 10% is, oh that's great. And yes, this battle rating set is no different. It is full of logical inconsistencies and just downright, what are you thinking? How is that even fair? An example for each of those is one on screen here. You have the CL-13B at 9.0, and if you look at the other missile-carrying subsonic Korean warjets, the F-86 F-40, the premium MiG-17, and the Shenyang F-5, they did not move in battle rating, and you could chalk it up probably to the fact that they have AIM-9Bs. Whether you agree with it or not, that seems to be the logic Gaijin has chosen for whether or not the planes go down. Well, the CL-13B is the exception. It has AIM-9Bs and it did go down. And then you look at something like the premium MiG-17 or the F-86 F-40 and you see that these are supposed to be on the same level according to Gaijin. That's a little bit laughable. I would say that the CL-13B belongs at the same battle rating as the Shenyang F-5 at 9.3. And then of course you have all of the missing 9.0s that didn't get moved, people like referencing like for example the Hunter, and that is a very good point. Why didn't some of these other 9.0s get moved down? So yes, I do have a lot of issues with these BR changes. It doesn't make any sense. I fully agree with everybody. But my issue here is, how is that any different than all of the battle rating changes Gaijin has ever made? If you look at every battle rating change we've ever had, for the most part it goes something like this. One group of aircraft goes down or up in battle rating, which makes another group of aircraft somewhat playable finally, while the ones that have changed either completely break the battle rating they go to or they just completely suffer, and I think that's pretty consistent throughout all of their changes. In this case, we have the Legacy 9.0 Korean era subsonics going down, which actually finally makes these things playable after years of having to deal with the 9.7 bracket. And that also means that something like an 8.0 or in some cases 7.0, 7.3 aircraft are going to have a miserable time fighting things like MiG-15 bis issues and just normal MiG-15 bis. And if you are one of these 7.0, 8.0 players, I absolutely understand the frustration, I really do. But at the same time, this is the way it always goes when there's a battle rating change. I don't know why this one specifically has gotten so much outcry over others, because I really don't see much of a difference. I am biased, of course, because I do want these 9.0 planes to be playable again. Like I said, it's been years. I think it's time for their turn, and that's pretty much what a battle rating change is. For the most part, since Gaijin refuses to just outright decompress, we should have battle rating like 16.0 by now, but since they've made it clear they're not doing that, they're kind of taking turns with eras of aircraft where one might be more meta to play than the other. And for example, I think pretty much nothing in the old 9.7 bracket was ever actually fun to play. It's just like, do you want to go grief somebody's game while simultaneously not being that competitive in your own battle rating? Well, you take the risk, and that's what you see with a lot of these 9.3, 9.7 aircraft, like the F-104, like the MiG-19. Yes, if you are in a subsonic jet, these things are miserable to fight against, but at the same time, if you're actually the one playing the F-104, 80% of the time you're getting up tiered into 10.0, 10.3, where you have to deal with all aspect missiles or people carrying AIM-9Gs, and you're not going to have much fun either. So we're left with a situation where pretty much nobody gets to have any fun, and it's just a matter of, are you lucky with your matchmaker, and can you grief the people underneath you? And today, that is exactly what I am doing with my CL13B. I kind of just started playing this thing. Actually, my first games ever in the CL13B are after the battle rating changes because I knew that this plane was going to be absolutely broken in this matchmaker. Sure, it's still 9.0, it can get up tiered, and I do want to make a disclaimer. Do not pay attention to the current matchmaker right now at all. It's probably going to change. It's completely dependent on which nation you're playing, as always, and let the spam die down for a week or two. Let everyone kind of get used to the new changes and stop playing so much 9.0, and then maybe we'll take a look at what the matchmaker truly looks like. But for now, you get a lot of down tiers as a 9.0 plane. And again, it's probably just because this matchmaker is absolutely flooded right now. Nonetheless, it is going to really be a great time if you're in a 9.0 and you get these kind of matchups. My CL13B versus Vampires here, F86As, they stand absolutely no chance. And I think we were in some kind of a 2 versus maybe 8 situation at some point. And me and my teammate here, Bounty Hunter, shout out to him, we pretty much just worked together the entire time to clean up the entire enemy team by ourselves. And I say work together, there's not a whole lot of working together happening. It's pretty much just he's actually pretty smart, he knows what he's doing, so he manages to stay alive, which gives the enemy team something else to think about, something to worry about, as do I when somebody's on him. But for the most part, we're just in blatantly superior aircraft. You can see he's kind of taking a 1v1 with an A5, I'm taking a 1v1 with a Vampire, and there's nothing these guys can really do to us except dodge my bullets because the Vampire is a bit slippery of an aircraft. But as far as actually killing me goes, he's not going to have a chance. I'm too fast, my energy retention is too high. He could get a lucky shot, his guns are extremely strong, they have very high velocity out to pretty far range compared to other guns in the game. But for the most part, there's really nothing he can do. It's more so about me messing up than him being able to do anything or play his aircraft to the strengths. And it's just a matter of time. You just got to keep getting him lower on energy, actually hit your shots would be helpful. And then eventually they're going to be defenseless and down on the deck with nowhere to go, nowhere to dive, pick up speed, and it becomes a pretty easy shot. And especially when you have a teammate that's kind of bouncing back and forth with you like Bounty Hunter is in his Limb 5. I've got both these guys behind me, but all I have to do is keep climbing away and flying a straight line, and Bounty Hunter is going to come in and get the A5 off of me, which is great. I don't necessarily need the help because, again, just the matchup here is kind of comical. There's really nothing any of them can do to either of our aircraft. Either one of us could probably win this situation alone, but the fact that there is 2 of us makes this a whole lot easier, and we end up winning a very, what on paper looks like an unwinnable situation. A lot of people have problems with the CLs and don't really like the CL13, mainly because of the 50 cals is the most common complaint I hear, which I guess is understandable, especially so for console players, because 50 cal is not just a point and click and get a free kill type cannon. It does take a little bit more aiming, a little bit more tracing your target's flight path, and a little bit more time on target. But that being said, if you get just like a solid 1 second, doesn't sound like much, but when it comes to air combat, a solid 1 second burst on target is pretty much always going to kill somebody with your 50 cals. And that does take a lot more practice than cannons, I understand, and if you're playing on joysticks with a controller, that may very well be nearly impossible. I've played on controller before on this game, way back in the day. I do understand the struggles, but the 50 cal with 1800 rounds of ammunition is honestly one of my preferred guns at this battle rating. All of the extra ammo means that you get to shoot people pretty early on, which is going to make them have to defend against you at far range, which is going to make them bleed some energy as you start reeling them in. Aside from that, again, that far range with a lot of ammo just means that you can take a lot more tries at getting very early damage to them, even if it means only like a yellow or an orange critical component. It's still something. If you get somebody's engine yellow or orange or leaking oil, you pretty much have a massive advantage for the rest of the fight, and it's going to be pretty difficult to actually mess it up and lose unless their aircraft is just blatantly superior to yours, which in this case is obviously not true. So all in all, I think 50 cals, just because of the fact they have 1800 rounds of ammo, it lasts seemingly forever. Once you get the hang of the aim, you can stretch that to 6 kills easily, but I would say as far as 8 or 9 without having to go reload is certainly possible. But other than that, I don't think there really is much of a reason why anybody could dislike the CL13. You have superior flight performance to pretty much all of the other 9.0 aircraft, except possibly, perhaps, maybe, a MiG-17 with an afterburner really just depends on what you're going to value more. The MiG-17 can turn better, has a bit better low speed control, stuff like that. But you can rest assured as the CL that you can run from basically every jet at this battle rating, as well as the fact that you carry 2 AIM-9Bs, which are not the greatest missiles, of course, they're 10G, but they definitely can get you some kills at this BR, people stalling out, slowing down, or just simply don't see you, and it's a lot better than nothing. As this match finishes up, I do want to give one last shout out to my man Bounty Hunter in the Lim 5P. He was an absolutely fantastic teammate. It was a pleasure playing with him. And I do want to go back to the rant about the battle rating changes real quick, because I do want to touch on a couple things that I had thought about. And the first being that a lot of people think that if we simply just move up the MiG-19 and the F-104, all of our problems with these 9.0s are going to magically disappear. And I really don't understand that at all, because if you look at this list of aircraft on screen right here, these are all the aircraft that, in my opinion, absolutely grief Korean War jets and make them essentially unplayable. Now, of course, you don't see these all the time. A lot of people don't want to play all of these aircraft on this list, and that's largely in part because they're not fun. They're not fun to play at the battle ratings that they're at, and that is 100% understandable and true. And again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where every time you're playing something in this 9.0, 10.0 battle rating area, you're just taking a gamble. Am I going to have a miserable time in some kind of up tier that I can't compete in, or am I going to go grief people's matches in the BRs below me because they stand absolutely no chance against me? And that's very much the case with the aircraft that are on that list for the most part. But that is beside the point. I am simply addressing the fact that these aircraft are in the same matchmaker as something like the Sabres and the MiGs, and if people did play them, or if you did have them in your lobby, all they have to do is fly in a straight line or go up, and there is absolutely nothing you can do as a subsonic Korean War aircraft to actually fight against them. Let's make the situation even worse and say that there's more than one of them on the enemy team, or God forbid an entire team made up of these kind of aircraft, and you've been up tiered in your 9.0 or 9.3, well, you're out of luck. I'm sorry, you're going to have to third party somebody, you're going to have to take somebody's kill, I don't know, but you're not going to be very competitive fighting against any of these aircraft. So the issue goes far beyond the MiG-19 and the F-104. So how would I solve the issues we're facing here with battle rating compression? Well, again, I'm mostly just kind of happy for the fact that these Korean War jets are actually playable again. As I said, I think most BR changes are really nothing but cycles of vehicles that Gaijin wants people to actually try out. For the longest time, these things have been basically untouchable, and it's nice to see them kind of back in the spotlight again, or at least getting people into them where the matchmaker is actually full of them for once. That is a plus. But what I would do is, like I said earlier, 100%, we should have like 16.0 by now, and you just start from rank 1, 1.0, and you balance the aircraft as you go up in BR one at a time, and wherever you end up in the end is the battle rating you have in the end. I would much rather wait in queue for 1-2 minutes and get a good game every single time than get the 10-second queues we have right now, and your matchmaker is pretty much shit no matter where you look. That is, of course, the fantasy solution, because Gaijin would have done that by now if they actually cared about what any of us had to say. So, in my personal horrible-minded opinion that nobody's going to agree with, I hate 6.0 Super Props. It's a terrible matchmaker. It is probably one of the most miserable matchmakers to play in the entire game, in my opinion. The balance is horrible. B51Hs versus 109Ks, for example, Yak 3Us versus Talon 52H, that type of thing. There's just very obviously super props that just completely power creep everything else, and there's really not much of a point in playing the other ones. Aside from that, the main issue is that the games are tiny, usually 6 versus 6, 8 versus 8, not usually, but it happens extremely often, and the fact that very often as well, 4 Ju-288s take up either half or potentially 80% of the team slots on your team or the enemy team. So if you are on the team of just Ju-288s and you're playing a fighter, good luck having any kind of fun. And if you're in something like a P51 and you gotta go kill 4 288s, good luck doing that without taking severe damage and having to return to base, and then being extremely vulnerable for whatever fighter is on the enemy team. What I would do is I would push the 7.0 aircraft down into this horrible, unplayable bracket in my eyes anyways, as it is, and you know what? It's terrible anyways. You may as well just straight up ruin it for the sake of the 9.0 to 10.0 bracket. You can move the 9.0 Korean jets down, you can move some of the other guys up or down wherever you need them to be, and I think that would decompress the early stages of jets extremely well and make them all a lot more playable. In return, well, rest in piss 6.0, nobody's gonna miss you. I guess this video was a little bit ranty. I'm sorry that it ended up being 15, 16 minutes long, but of course, I only have 2 gameplays here to show you guys today, and I would like to show you at least 2 matches. It just so happens that this era of jets takes a little bit longer to play out than something like top tier or the games, or for Zoomer kids that scroll TikTok. And I thought I might use this ample time to go over what I think about the recent BR changes, because I would wager that my opinion is probably a bit in the minority. It seems that people really are quite upset with the recent changes. Again, I don't think they're necessarily good changes by any means. It's just I don't see the difference between these and all of the other battle rating changes we always get. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take advantage of the sale if you so wish. 30% off right now, won't be 50% until fall or Christmas, somewhere around there. Use my link in the description for a cool decal.